Hello and welcome to a Rygar, a Techmo arcade original that was released for the Commodore 64 and other systems by US Gold. The most noteworthy thing about this game is the music, which is done by David Whittaker. And there's something I want to say. When I made these game videos, I tried to do a minimal amount of research into people's general opinion of a game, just so I have some sort of comparison base. The opinions expressed in these videos are mine. I have no need or desire to be influenced by someone else's opinion. I'm qualified to establish my own opinions, and in that regard, the research I'm doing doesn't influence, but it's nice to have some sort of idea of what people may or may not think about a certain game. When it comes to Rygar Commodore 64, the attitude seems to be best game ever made, 10 out of 200 or 200 out of 10, or not even worse, the tape it was recorded on. I suppose we need to go over the plot. Some sort of evil empire thing has taken control, and it is Rygar's job to go out and wrestle control from evil empire. Yeah. We don't need plot in our games. Plot is overrated. It is for adventure games, role-playing games, and that kind. We don't need it in our action games. In order to do that, he needs to navigate 16 levels, which is 10 levels less than the arcade original, and the general purpose is to defeat enemies and navigate platforms. Well, not so much platforms, but more obstacles. In order to combat the enemies, he has this discus thing that he can throw out, and you can obtain various power-ups, either the stone ahead things that you can destroy will drop an item, or you can, after killing a certain amount of enemies, provoke a special icon to drop, which will be shown in the 5 boxes in the middle of the screen. Those icons can affect your weapon, they can shield you, they can make your shots directional, extended range of your shots, and so on and so on. The problem is, of course, that if you are foolish enough to allow yourself to die, then you lose whatever power-ups you may have gained. And dying is very easy in this game. It is actually unpleasantly easy to lose alive in this game. Which means that you find yourself in a position that if you want to power up, you need to grind enemies. And grinding enemies, of course, is dangerous because they are infinitely respawn and they randomly respawn. You don't know what you get. There seems to be certain themes that appear in certain areas, but there doesn't seem to be any consistency in those themes. So basically, you are forced to make the choice of trying to upgrade your power or just trying to get through the game. From a graphical point of view, I'm not super familiar with the arcade original, I have to admit, but from a graphical point of view, I think the game is on the high end of average. Definitely not the worst Commodore 64 game I've ever seen from a graphical point of view, but it is not necessarily the best either. That is such a generic way of describing the graphics, but I mean it's I'm not going to go back to the ratings, it was a bit wonky, but I don't think it's unbearable to look at, let me put it that way. The sound is somewhat enjoyable, the music by David Whittaker is definitely not bad, but it gets a bit, well, in my opinion, it is so monotonous, so it just disappears in the background once you've heard a tune long enough and it doesn't have any exciting moments in it. It just disappears, and that is definitely the case for the tune of Rygar. Technically, there's not much wrong with the game. The scrolling is smooth, the controls are fine. The problem is the gameplay. Considering the fact that there are 16 levels that you are supposed to be navigating in this game, the game's difficulty is way too high. Get good and all that, and yes, I'm sure there's someone out there who blindfolded tied to a chair while singing one random song of his or her favorite kind can complete this game with one life. I'm sure that person exists, possibly. But mere mortals will probably find this game to be an unpleasantly, I wouldn't even call it challenging experience, because it doesn't feel challenging, it feels cheesy. And it just feels like, you know what, let's just throw 200 enemies at the player. On certain levels you get more opponents coming towards you than you can reliably fight, making it a very fair experience. As you can probably see my attitude towards the game at this point from the high score entry. It is short of a bollocks indeed. It has something that sort of makes you want to play it, but at the same time it also has a lot of something that wants to that gives you a sense of wanting to take the game and throw it as hard as you possibly can against something that's hard enough to cause it to disintegrate into a billion tiny little pieces. I usually only get agitated if I get mauled by a computer. This game was actually making me feeling something that resembled anger. There wasn't any fairness in it. It never felt at any point that I had a solid chance of making any progress. The fact that the bonuses you get are completely and utterly random doesn't help. The fact that someone decided that, you know what, if you are foolish enough to attack while jumping, Rygar is going to stop dead in the air and fall straight down. And guess what? Most of the time you need to jump and attack is when you're trying to cross obstacles that you need to jump over, holes or similar. Such a ridiculously stupid oversight. Did I enjoy Rygar? I have to admit I did in parts, but those parts were so overwhelmed by the things that I found frustrating about this game. There is a decent game lying in there somewhere, but it's just drowned in minor flaws and a difficulty that is stupid. Outright stupid. Why do they release these kind of games? It's not fun to play this game. On that note, thanks for watching, take care, see you next time, bye bye for now.